Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm sitting here relaxing, enjoying my day. My team is in the Western Conference Finals, still very much reaming off of the um, just all of the good energy surrounding the squad. I'm listening to different people talking about the team. I'm paying attention to Nugget highlights now. I've finally dug in on those highlights since I didn't force myself to do any homework on the Warriors in the last series. I got a little lazy when it came to that, but excuse me, I found myself watching a couple hours of Nuggets highlights. I tried to get as much of the first series in as I could watch against the Timberwolves, but it was something that was very difficult to watch because you already knew those games were blowouts, and then the highlights themselves weren't really much to watch. But I got through that series, and then I watched the Phoenix Suns series as well, the entire thing. So those were honestly basically a bunch of plays that I think they can't run against us. That's what I'm gonna say about the Denver Nuggets. I know that's gonna sound ridiculous, but when you watch your own team long enough, you just kind of know what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And unfortunately for the Nuggets, most of what their strengths are things that we attack naturally. And most of the things that their weaknesses are also things that we attack naturally. It's kind of like it's it's not kind of like it is definitely that when Rob put this team together, he had the Nuggets in mind, just like he had the Memphis Grizzlies in mind, just like he had the Golden State Warriors in mind. This is what I was trying to explain to everybody, and this is just my theory. I don't know anybody, ain't talked to anybody, obviously, but this is just what I'm looking at. Since we had a whole half a season to put this team together, we were able to get a sample size of all the teams left. The Nuggets were the team at the top of the list. So even if you wanted to ignore the Nuggets, you would be a fool for doing so because they were number one while we were putting the team together. So we already, even as a team before making the trade that had Russell Westbrook and Patrick Beverly on it, we matched up pretty decent against them then because of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They just don't function well against that core, and given the fact that they only use 8 guys, when you have a guy like Russell Westbrook who can do as much as he could back then, and Anthony Davis and LeBron James healthy, we still attacked that Denver Nugget team in some ways that they didn't want to see in a 7-game series before we even made the trade, in my humble opinion. Not to say we would have beat them necessarily, but with a healthy Anthony Davis, we may have. We may have. But after we made the trade, then we put ourselves in a real position to have just a flat out ridiculous amount of depth on top of what it is that the Nuggets have trouble with any dang way, which is Anthony Davis. So this is a situation where I look at the Denver Nuggets and I legitimately say, with all due respect, in looking at all of your highlights, I just don't think you're going to be able to pull most of that off against a focused, defensive-minded Laker team with the length and the defensive players that we have, and with the guards that we have and how dynamic they can be complementing the offense if for any reason we can't score. And couple that with the intensity of the moment and the experience of our superstars, for which we've not only gotten many championships, but we've beaten them en route to a championship, to which they haven't really made many changes since then, although they have made some, but not many. So I look at that Denver Nuggets team and I say, I just don't see it. You can play a great brand of basketball, and maybe if my team comes in with the wrong mentality and doesn't take you seriously, you can come in and shoot well against us and catch us off guard. But I don't know how you're going to do that in 4 games. That's my thing. If the Lakers get caught off guard, they're going to need players to just not be utilized correctly. We're going to have to dumb it down so that we can't match up with them properly. Because otherwise, from what I saw, man, and watching the Nuggets, a lot of what Jokic was able to do was get on the inside and just score layups over people who weren't really viable defensive players, to be honest with you. He was laying the ball up over Karl Towns. We know he doesn't defend very well. We saw certain sequences where he was laying the ball up over Cam Payne. It was like the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Phoenix Suns were not very good defensive teams at all. So a lot of what the Denver Nuggets are about is how pretty and functioning their offense is. Well, you can run that offense against teams that don't play any defense. When you go up against a defensive team, it's going to be about, can you run your offense against them in that situation? And the answer is probably not. But then it goes down on the other end. All right, can you stop them now? Well, that's something that I don't see they have the personnel for. Now, from what I understand, they play great team defense. People have been talking about how great the team defense of the Nuggets is. But then I look at the personnel they're going up against. Against who? Karl Towns and Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is fantastic. Karl Towns, we got a lot of respect for them. But they're not coming at you with the same type of stuff that we're coming at them with. That's a different level of force coming at you with the Lakers and the depth that we have and the size players that we have, the forwards that we have, the way that we turn defense into offense. The one thing that I think the Nuggets have going for them is that they are a very good transition defensive team. And that's something that we kind of rely upon, as I'm saying, defense to offense. So if they can find a way to stop our transition, plays, they're going to force us to have to score in the half court. The problem is, I don't think they can defend us in the half court. Even though we don't have the greatest half court offense, and we know that, if we want to drive at the rim, they don't have any rim protection against Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Dennis Schroeder. They're going to foul them. And that's exactly what we want people to do. We're going to drive at the rim and we're going to get calls. So that's the way it's going to go for the Nuggets. That's how I see it going. It's just, even if they try to force us into things that benefit them, we're still good enough at those things to where it ain't really going to benefit them anyway. And if, you know what I mean? And we're going to be able to dictate our will. A lot of what Jokic wants to do is predicated on being able to see over people and people giving him space and people not having the length to really disrupt him. That's what I was seeing. They weren't guarding him very close. They were playing off of him at the 3-point line. He was just passing the ball around, getting in the paint, backing people down. But the people he was backing down were severely undersized, or he was getting switched out on guards and stuff like that. Because we just played against the Golden State Warriors, a lot of those switches and things like that we're on high alert about. You know what I mean? Even if they're throwing some variation of some very serious geometry, as I like to call it, the Lakers have just seen some of the best geometry the league has to offer right now with the Golden State Warriors. So in looking at the Denver Nuggets offense, I didn't see anything down there that was more complex than what we just saw against the Warriors right now. So it's like, when you couple that with the fact that we had to only have 1 day's rest in between each game, so we had the pulse of the rhythm of playing against a Golden State Warrior team like we did, having to chase Steph Curry around. With all due respect, Jamal Murray, we just got through chasing Steph Curry around. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't see it. I don't see it. Jokic is going to have to turn into a hell of a rim protector against guys who are just flat out more capable of getting layups against him versus the fact that he's going to be disrupted on the offensive end if the Lakers are doing what they're supposed to do. They're going to be relying upon some type of injuries or something like that to try to remove key players from our situation, in my opinion, in order for the teams to dumb down to be what it is that they're going to be. Because at the end of the day, they're only running 8 people, man. They're running 8 people. And even though those guys have some size, not against us. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of people are saying things about the Denver Nuggets like they're deep. I'm like, that depth is not being utilized. Now, if they start reaching down and using more of those guys and showing us that those guys can be productive for them, then of course that depth can be realized. But if they're only going to go 8 deep and they don't feel comfortable playing anybody else, they're just going to wear those guys down any damn way. So that's another thing. It's like, at what point does Jokic run out of gas? At what point, you know what I mean, when the physicality hits from having to bang up against the physical players that we're going to put down there, which one of these teams is going to run out of gas first? And I know a lot of people think we're the older team, but not really. That's only Bron, and Bron's one of the best conditioned athletes in the world, even with an injury. So, you know what I mean? It gets to a thing, it gets to a point where you just look at AD and you say, as long as he's 100% healthy, and he looks like he's in the best shape he's been in probably 5 years, I don't see any reason why he can't go out there and be the same player that he was against the Golden State Warriors. And if that's the case, Jokic will be disrupted severely. And then it's just going to be about who else on that team can beat us. And we're just going to outclass them dudes. With all due respect, we just got better players when it comes to that. After Murray and Porter, Then you start looking around and asking people like Green to step up, asking Gordon as well to step up. You know what I mean? Christian Brown to step up, Bruce Brown to step up, and then you're looking at our guys, and it's just more of us. It's just more of us. We got way more weapons. When you start looking at the Lonnie Walker, Rui Hachimura, Dennis Schroeder, D'Angelo Russell, and then A.D. Braun, Vanderbilt being disruptive, Winyon coming off the bench. It just goes on and on. Lonnie Walker. Then you start looking at the different options that we don't even use. It becomes a situation where you understand that the Denver Nuggets just don't have the bodies. It's going to come down to them not having the bodies. It's longer the series goes on, they keep using them 8 guys, and we keep on coming at them with more options and more Bron, more AD. No. Best bet for the Denver Nuggets to try to win 2 quick games in their house somehow. Just catch us slipping, and then find a way to win one of them 2 games and get us in a 3-1 hole. That's the only way I see them winning the series. Otherwise, if we can go back and forth with games or we start getting quick early wins, it's out. It's over with, because the matchups are going to favor us severely. So a lot of people have a misconception about what the Denver Nuggets are actually going to be able to do against this type of roster. What you've seen them do is what they've done against everybody else. And that's been my argument about the Denver Nuggets all year long. They're the number 1 seed in my humble opinion because they've been able to benefit from the teams who were not who they became after the trade deadline. They packed in a lot of wins early in the season when we were running around with Westbrook and all them dudes. And they weren't beating us. I think they only got 1 win against us. And so what I'm telling you is this is a bad matchup for them. They could beat the rest of the field. The field is fine. The field barely plays any defense. The field barely has anybody at the 7-foot position who's going to guard like this other than Jaren Jackson. You understand what I'm saying? There's only a couple guys who are going to disrupt Jokic. So from night to night, he's going to be able to do what he does until he runs into a team that is constructed to stop him from doing what he does. And that is what the Lakers actually are. That's what I'm trying to explain to people. That's what I believe this is. So as we go forward and it pans itself out, I'll say with a lot of humble energy that I've been very wrong about the Miami Heat. For I see the same thing in the Miami Heat, only in a much lesser degree, and clearly they are still around. But the thing about the Miami Heat is that they got Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Those are two-way guys, defensive-minded, who could give you a lot of trouble, who can be very disruptive in the Eastern Conference, and they have been. And getting guys to hit shots and things of that nature. They have the same squad they had back at the bubble, just like, to a certain degree we do and the Nuggets do. It's just a return to the bubble. And you can clearly see that these teams, with the continuity of these cores being together, ultimately have helped them in these 7-game series. I think that's really what it comes down to. You're seeing these teams, they're still around. And Miami Heat, they're constructed to play more so in the playoffs. These guys that they have on their role players, bench in the area of other use, those guys usually step up in playoff moments. And so you're kind of seeing just the DNA of those players step up in this moment. And it shouldn't be as much of a surprise as it has been. But nevertheless, that's where we're at. The Nuggets, the Lakers, obviously the Philadelphia Sixers and the Celtics are going to battle it out in Game 7 tomorrow. We'll know what's going on with that. And that will determine a lot of what we expect in regards to the path for these teams. But if you're a Laker fan, you feel like we got the best chance of anybody right now. We got the deepest team. We've gone through the toughest road, and we're battle tested. We got NBA champions. We got a pantheon great all-time world champion player who just flat out does not have enough rings. LeBron James with 4 rings. For him to be where he's at, he needs more rings. And for us to have this type of team, I don't know that he's been on a more talented, fuller basketball club than this. And the funny thing is that there's still a good portion of the country that doesn't understand that about the Lakers. They really don't. Run around saying that the Denver Nuggets are more deep. No, they are not. They are most definitely not. And that's something that the Lakers are going to go out there and prove. So that's what I hope we'll do. Darvin Ham has the ability to use all of these players, and quite honestly, Malone's not going to use all of his. So that's one of the things that we've already said, but it needs to be reiterated so that we understand that that's what separates these two teams. If we dwindle ourselves down to 8 players, I still think we win this series, though. To be honest with you, I think the 8 players, our best 8 versus their best 8 is Nah, I just really think it's like that, but more so playing styles. The playing styles, in theory, should just work in the Lakers' favor, so long as they don't do anything outside of themselves. Start asking Malik Beasley to take a bunch of shots, that kind of stuff. Just lean into your strengths. If we do what we're supposed to do, no. This series should not be close, based on the Lakers' ability to play defense and our ability to attack them in the half court and have success in the paint, get to the line. Because really, that's really what it is. Otherwise, if we're able to pierce through their transition defense, we shouldn't have problems necessarily getting deflections and stops and things of that nature. Because Jokic's going to pass so much, and we're going to be so disruptive with Vanderbilt and these guys that we use, AD and Bron, then I can see the ball just kind of going in different directions. And then from there, it's going to be who can get to the loose balls quicker. And I think we have better athletes over here and bigger guys in some cases. In most of those cases, and yeah, I expect us to get to those 50-50 balls a lot of the time. Guys like KCP are going to be quick to that. Bruce Brown and Christian Brown are going to be very quick to that. So those are the guys I'm going to be looking to help them in that way. And Gordon. So those are the four guys that quickly come to mind. We're going to have to be very, very careful to be fast around them. But, you're looking at Jeff Green. He's going to have a huge role in this series. Are they going to use DeAndre Jordan for size? Might not be the worst idea. If that's the case, look out for him because he's a much better player than he was when we had him 2 years ago. Doesn't mean I expect him to do a lot, but again, deflections, steals, big game situations. I just don't think Mike Malone's going to go too far into that bench, unless it's garbage time, obviously, for which it may be. But I don't see it. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter. I got to get those names right. But nevertheless, some of the best catch and shoot players out there. So we have to respect their extra pass ability. Jokic's ability to make a cross-court pass with precision accuracy. I think D'Angelo Russell is going to be an important player in this series. I really do. Because when you start thinking about the half court, a lot of what I expect to happen is either we're going to live and die with some of his shot making. Because he's the one who can attack that transition as they're trying to back up and catch us in, with their fantastic transition defense. He's the guy that can pull up and kind of catch them off guard with the catch and shoot situation. He's the one who can kind of methodically put ourselves in a position to draw fouls and things of that nature. So he's definitely somebody who's going to have to continue to be active on the defensive end so that he doesn't provide any holes otherwise, which he's been pretty good at. He's been helping us in defensive situations from night to night, looking at his stats. Gets a steal here, a block here, and that kind of thing. So his length can be helpful. We just need him to give us pep in his step, and we need to be able to get away from him if he's playing lethargic, especially if we try to start the game in this turnover season, or he's passing the ball in various ways that ultimately put our players in bad situations. Sometimes that can tend to be a little bit of a thing there for D'Lo, but I think he's going to be very important in this series against a guy like Jokic, Murray. You're going to want ice in his veins to show up and probably have a big game to help us win one of these games in this series. So that's who I have circled, D'Lo. D'Lo is going to have to play well. He's had a very up and down playoffs, mostly down, to be honest with you, but his highs have been very high. So we're asking for some consistency there. It's been a pleasure to have his shooting ability back. You know what I mean? We know at the end of the day he's a weapon that is very, very potent. And so we don't know what the future holds in regards to his free agency, but hopefully we can retain him, because at the end of the day, with any of the flaws that he brings to the table, he can bring some very, very key strengths. And so one of them is precision passing. One of them is fantastic touch and mid-range ability, high efficiency shooting ability. But he has to just find his consistency and accept that he's still a young player, so that the upside is there for him to grow in that way. And a lot of times people get to a point where they're in their mid-20s or late 20s rather, where they get to a point where they think they can't learn because the reputation of them is set in stone in the minds of others. But that's not actually how that really works. You're still progressing. You're still getting better at whatever you're doing. And for a guy like D'Angelo Russell, whose gifts have always been precision, patience, I would say swagger, more or less, the ability to kind of just have a methodical game, kind of take people off the dribble and be kind of smooth with it. that's a gift, and it's something that you don't find very often. Where he goes left is not knowing how to turn it off when it's time to become frantic, so to speak, and push out the inertia necessary to meet the moment. He doesn't want to be a loser, but it's that cool vibe that hurts him when it's time to jump in and be defensive. He's got to get crazy in the defensive moment, step outside of himself, and kind of get to the aggression that otherwise is in there. You know what I mean? Because there's a time to be smooth, and there's a time to get active. And I think that he's still trying to find that sweet medium, particularly on the defensive end. He needs to find that. So that's something that I'm looking for from him. More of aggressiveness. We're getting into a situation where he's in rarefied air as it pertains to the experience he's about to go through in the Western Conference Finals. He ain't never been this far into the playoffs. So I don't want him to wet the bed as it pertains to breaking a couple of shots and then letting that falter other areas of his game. Because we're going to need him to be confident, and we're going to need him to ultimately be intent with every possession. And when I think of this, I'm more so considering how he gets the ball to whom, when, and what situation they're in when they catch the ball from his pass. Missed shots, whatever. Defensive mistakes. Communication is everything. But that's where he really needs to key in, because that's ultimately what we've identified him passing the ball to AD, and AD end up in some double team trap situations. Trust you me. Gordon, both the Browns, all the guys we've already mentioned, they're going to be double teaming the heck out of AD at their leisure as they see fit with their adjustments. But we need to be ready for them bringing the early double team and things of that nature. We pass AD the ball and we don't get nothing out of them. It could turn into transition buckets for the other team, but we know how that goes with KCP. So, again, Bruce Brown and KCP, we have got to target those guys. That's their Andrew Wiggins. That's their GP2. You know what I'm saying? Those are the guys that are really the meat and potatoes. That's their Kevon Looney. We need to take very, very good care of what those guys are doing and stop them from doing it. Gordon, keep him off the glass. You know what I'm saying? Get him in foul trouble. Neutralize the fact that he's going to be aggressive defensively. He's going to be looking for offensive rebounds. He's going to be looking for block shots in situations, the weak side help. Because if he doesn't, it's going to be a layup line around you. I'm telling you right now. So these are the type of things I just don't know how Denver's going to stop us from getting layups. I don't know. I think we should definitely get Vanderbilt back into this series. He can be extremely disruptive to Jokic. Extremely disruptive. I'm telling you. In fact, this might be a heavy Vandals series. Don't worry about his offensive mistakes as much in this series, because at the end of the day, you just want him to be as absolutely disruptive as possible on the defensive end in this series. Because Jokic is going to be passing the ball all over the place. And I'm telling you, the worst thing in the world for a guy like Jokic is having Vando, AD, LeBron, all these guys reading what he's doing as he's trying to pass the ball. When watching the Timberwolves and watching the Suns, that's what they didn't have. People trying to read him, stop him, deflect him, all that. He was just being able to pass the ball all over the place. It was just like, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, so when is AD supposed to sit down so that all of this can happen for Jokic? It's like, I don't see none of this being able to go for Jokic if we're playing defense like we're supposed to, keeping the right people on the floor and, doing what the Lakers are capable of doing. So that's just what I see. I see us being a huge disruptor to all the cute, pretty, beautiful stuff that they ultimately do to make them who they are. It's their offense. It runs a certain way, and it's pure and it's fluid and it's great. But the problem is, you only see it really do that when it goes up against really weak defenses. Man, that is the opposite of what this Laker team is. The complete opposite. So that's really what it is. Salute the Kobe minutes. Just want to give you guys a rundown of what I see there, man. I'll probably go back over some of those highlights again, look at some of the numbers a little closer, maybe, come back with some information that brings a little more balance to the idea that maybe the Denver Nuggets can beat us, you know what I mean? So that we can be a bit more balanced. We want to respect them to high heck, and obviously, like I said, health can change everything. So if for some reason we don't have Anthony, we don't have Braun, suddenly this series can go a lot of different ways. So it's not as simple as we have more, so we're going to beat them. No, we have more, so we need to be blessed to be healthy, make good decisions, put good rotations on the floor. Hopefully the other team doesn't play outside of themselves in such a magnificent way that we can't stop. All these different things got to fall into place. You know what I'm saying? So we humble, but we just know what the rosters look like, and we understand ours is way better. When I say way better, I say that with a whole lot of confidence. So that's just really what it is, man. I think there's going to be some changes in the NBA. Bottom line, I think teams are going to understand that if you don't have more than 8 players that you can use in the playoffs, you can't win the championship. I think that's what all of this is about to prove people. Some of these teams that y'all consider deep, that word's going to have to be rearranged. Because if you can't go past 10 with guys who can legitimately contribute in multiple ways that make sense, hell no, you ain't deep. You ain't deep because you got 7 or 8 role players that a casual knows their name. No, that's not deep, buddy. No, because the fullness of that team's going to be leaning on those players, and the rest of those guys, as I always say, ain't going to be available, thus making it so that these players that they're using going to be starting to get tired right around now. So that's just how it's gone. My whole life I've been watching teams make this mistake, and I'm no longer confused by what I see. I can anticipate what's going to happen. In a lot of cases, I'm right. And this is what it is, man. You can't go up against a roster like the Los Angeles Lakers only use 8 people. Mike Malone's going to find that out very quickly. And if he adjusts, he might give himself a better shot, in my humble opinion. But you're putting too much strain on Jokic at this point to try to go up against Anthony Davis and all these disruptive bigs and LeBron James and the attacking offense that we have that's going to be putting pressure on him to not foul but still rim protect. Doesn't work. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't work. They better. This is when you wish you kept Bol if you're the Denver Nuggets. This is when you wish you had Jeremy Grant if you're the Denver Nuggets. This is what you need. Rim protection for a matchup like this. And so that's really what it comes down to, man. Jokers don't have enough. Not on this team. Not going up against the roster that we have. And so I don't know what analysts are going to tell you. You know how I feel about analysts. A lot of them run around telling people the Nuggets are going to win. I'm like, where? How? The Styles don't even – the series is going to go 7. Not if the Lakers do what they're supposed to. Not if the Lakers take advantage of the strengths that are there. No. You know, the Nuggets play a fantastic brand of basketball. But what they've done, they've never done against a roster like this. And when they run into a roster like this, you're going to see what it is that I'm talking about. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching.